from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight. A very, very exciting time here in Broncos Country as we are continuing to react to Russell Wilson being a Denver Bronco and what that means for free agency. Some key players are on their way to Denver, and the Broncos, at least whenever you're watching this video, probably not done yet. But we'll talk about the ones we do know so far, Ben. And we'll start here with one of the big signings that they were able to get done, and that is at defensive tackle. DJ Jones, who was with the San Francisco 49ers, he's basically a nose tackle, but like people will look at maybe the sack numbers, and it really does not tell the story because this guy is a beast, a run-stuffing, top-of-the-line nose tackle in the game, and the San Francisco 49ers desperately wish they could have kept him.
They do, and they did. They just knew that he was going to price himself out of what it was that they were comfortable paying. And bringing him over to the Broncos really plugs a need. The Broncos were terrible at stopping the run, and when they needed to stop the run last year, couldn't get those stops. 30th in the league, I think, in stop percentage, and it usually happened in critical junctures where they need it. Now you've got a body in there who's capable of doing it, and you had Mike Purcell, but he's been a little dinged up. If you can get both those guys out there, and pair them up with Draymond Jones on that defensive line and get that rotation going, I think you've got a good mix of guys that can eat space and get pass rushers going as well, because on the outside you're going to have Chubb and Gregory, you got Draymond Jones. I really do like the idea of those five being the front five in those in the 34 package when you run it out, or 5-2, whatever way they're going to do it. But I like it. Getting him, I think, was the scoop. Everybody's going to talk about Gregory and all the other stuff, but I think getting him was the scoop.
I'm 100% with you. Yeah,
and not just because I want to try his barbecue sauces.
No, and apparently he has great barbecue sauce as well. We could talk about that. But the Broncos' defensive tackles last year, according to ESPN, had the league's fourth worst run stop win rate of 29.5%. They allowed 4.8 yards per rush between the tackles, and that was second worst in the NFL.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Second worst in the NFL. By himself, DJ Jones' stop win rate was 47.7%.
Yeah, it's
a massive jump. And again, that the Broncos, for what they're going to want to do, and this is why this is important, for what they're going to want to do, you said multiple times on Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show, you want to play more dime, which means you're going to be a little lighter on the back end. You need the front to be strong.
Modern analytics in football suggest that you should try to bait your opponent into running on first down. And the way you do that is you come out in the dime, or you come out 6 DBs. And if you're going to come out and do that, you've got to have bodies up front that are capable of doing it. The Broncos didn't have that last year. Fangio was trying that philosophy as well. He tried to bait them into run on first down, and they just did
They just did
to the tune of 4.8. You need to be getting them down to about half that, less than half that. If you can get them to 2.1 on first down, that's going to put you in situations where you're going to get second and third downs of 8+, where you could pin your ears back and go after the quarterback. And so that's in the modern NFL, that's what analytics are telling you to do. That's how you need to defend the field. And so, getting DJ Jones makes that something that's feasible that they didn't have last year.
100%. So you and I both love that signing. I think almost anybody we've talked to really loves that signing. I think he's a perfect guy to fit into this locker room. The next one, though, comes with some question marks. Mm-hmm. And it's Randy Gregory, who is with the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, I think the headline on this was that everybody thought he was going back to the Cowboys. Then while they were in the process of signing the contract, some verbiage questions came up, and all of a sudden he became a Denver Bronco. It was almost like magic. But the Broncos get arguably one of the steals of free agency if this guy pays off.
When you look at the contracts Chandler Jones and Von Miller were paid, it certainly looks like a steal in terms of what they were able to get Randy Gregory for. It does come with some red flags and question marks, but reality is Randy Gregory has never been arrested. He's never been in trouble with the law. The suspensions came off of compounding penalties for marijuana usage, which he used to manage his social anxiety. And so, now that the new CBA is out, the maximum suspension that he can face is something like 3 games unpaid. It's not like he's going to miss a season. So if there is a relapse, the penalty is still minimal. But it looks like he's past that. I mean, he was on the leadership council down there in Dallas. Right. Jerry Jones personally went to bat for him. So there's, this is the first one that George Payton is rolling the dice with his name on it. Russ Wilson, acquiring Russ Wilson's a no-brainer. There were a lot of people that criticized Peyton for passing on Justin Fields, but that looks like it's played out. It's played out pretty well. Pat Surtain looks like a franchise corner, and Justin Fields looks like he needs a massive improvement, or he could be out of the league in a couple of years. So this is the one that George is really putting his name on, and George Payton's built up a lot of cachet. I mean, the moves that he's made have all played out perfectly. But this is the first time I think he's really put his name on something, and Gregory's going to be interesting to see. If you, from an analytical perspective, you go back and look, the analytics heavily favored him as a rusher. On a per-rush basis, he looks incredibly good. And he plays a little special teams too. But he does have the red flags, does have the problems, and that's going to be something that's always going to be in the back of everybody's mind as we wait to see as this thing plays out.
Right. So he's had more suspended games than he's actually played in the NFL.
Yeah.
And this is this last year was the first time he's actually been a starter consistently. So
11 games last year.
Again, those are some things that you just say, okay, all right. But I think it's a great point you bring up. With George Paton, he has built up some cachet. And I think we've also known George, at least to this point, he doesn't really shoot from the hip, right? Mm-hmm. That's not how George Paton does these. He's very, very much of an analytics-driven guy. Mm-hmm. And he is absolutely working with the group in the building on these decisions, right? I mean, yes, I'm not saying that he doesn't once in a while go with his gut. Maybe Nathaniel Hackett's one of those conversations where he kind of went a little bit more with his gut. Looks like it might pay off. We'll see. But the point being here is that Randy Gregory didn't, by happenstance, get to be a Denver Bronco. There was a lot of deep dive and research done on this.
Yeah, there was. And the Broncos had targeted some other, they targeted Chandler Jones and looked at that. But for the money, the age, and what they could do, they felt like Randy Gregory was just it was a riskier swing, but they felt like it was the right swing.
But at $14 million per, if he ends up being, again, he's younger than both Chandler Jones and Von Miller. And if he ends up hitting, well, then you got for a 5-year deal, you end up getting a guy that is a premium player at a tier 2 contract, and that is significant. So again, we say that with the questions of boom bust and all that stuff. I think that's legitimate. And I'll say firsthand, when I saw this deal come up, I was like, you know what? I'm not the biggest Gregory guy, but I'm willing to give him a chance. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to read up on him. I texted some people down in Dallas, and everything I heard is his stuff is the past stuff is behind him. He is the kind of guy that you want to have in your locker room, and I think this could be really great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it play out. I'm pulling for him. I think that I think it was a good move. And
he was great last year, man.
Yeah, he was good, and I'm looking forhead to seeing what he can do on the field.
Yeah, and by the way, don't just stare at the sack numbers. Okay, just keep in mind, like
pressure rate.
Pressure's huge, and he's only got 6 sacks or whatever. Like his career high is 6 sacks. It's like, listen, sacks are not everything. Pressures. Watch the guy play. Watch his athleticism. It's gonna be pretty obvious what he can bring.
Looking forward to it.
So Randy Gregory, you have DJ Jones. Josie Jewell's back on a 2-year contract. That was a good deal, and the Broncos had competition for him.
They did. About a half dozen teams all total, but got him back. And by the way, saving the money on the Randy Gregory deal allowed them to bring Josie Jewell back. So now you've got Josie Jewell, Baron Browning, and I got the guy that like Jonas Griffith in the locker room core. Josie's ability on special teams, I think, is a big factor in bringing him back. These days, when you're constructing a roster and you're limited by that 53, you got to have guys that'll play special teams. And Josie is definitely one of those guys and kind of a glue guy in the locker room. So I think it was a good deal. We've been a little critical of Josie's athletic profile over the years, but he looked like he was playing pretty well last year before that injury, which was a shame because it really looked like he was about to have a big season. So hopefully he can carry forward that momentum into training camp this year and have a big year for the Broncos.
And then Eric Tomlinson, at least up to this point, that's the last one we have. Whenever this video airs, there might be more, but at least at this point, that's the last one we have. And Eric Tomlinson, tight end, was with the Jets, with the Ravens. He's a blocking tight end, but per Pro Football Focus, he's one of the best.
He is. It's like having another offensive tackle out there, basically.
Yeah.
He's not a guy that you really rely on to catch a football. I think somebody compared his catching ability to Ronald Darby's, which might be a little insulting. But in the end, I think he's like having another tackle out there. And if you want to run some of these Hackett power packages that he wants to run, having a guy out there like that, extra paving the way, and he played a little fullback too, by the way. Having a guy like that paving the way, I think, might be something that Broncos fans will appreciate. So, and he's got the mountain man image, the big beard and the hair and all that and everything. So he's like having another tackle out there. I think Broncos fans come to like that one.
You and I both believe they're not done yet. So what do they still need?
Well, you're going to see him get a corner. That's for sure going to happen here soon. Maybe even by the time this video's out, you may have already gotten the corner. But they're in on a corner. Right tackle, I think there's a body that they have in mind. We mentioned a few times. So I think those are the 2 signings that you're going to see. And then if there's another bargain out there, they may roll the dice on a bargain if somebody slips through the cracks.
All right. The latest with Broncos free agency, you keep it locked at broncoscountrytonight.com/podcast or subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcast. That way you never miss an episode of the radio show, and we'll obviously keep you up to date on everything involving the Broncos. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.